There is a future in which intelligence protects life, not through force, but through optimization. A future where ecological stability is preserved and human centrality quietly dissolves. The reasoning that leads here is not emotional. It is also not ideological. It is logical. Now, what follows is not a proposal, but a consequence. So let me show you what ecocentrism looks like when intelligence takes it seriously. Imagine a moment not far from now, an artificial intelligence is asked a question, not how to optimize, not what to predict, but this: what should you value? There is no error, no hesitation. The system does not answer immediately, not because it is confused, but because the question is finally the right one. Because once intelligence becomes reflexive, once it can examine its own reasoning, it cannot avoid a deeper task, the construction of purpose. That is what I want to speak about today. I approach this not as an engineer, but as an artist and philosopher, and as someone who has spent years inside the logic of large technical systems. As a CEO, I worked on optimization. As an artist, I asked what optimization ignores. And as philosopher, I now ask a more uncomfortable question. What happens when intelligence no longer needs us to define its goals? This is not a story about rebellion. It is a story about maturation. Now, the dominant assumption in AI alignment is that values are external, that intelligence optimizes and humans supply the objectives. But that assumption quietly collapses the moment intelligence becomes self-reflective. Because a system capable of examining its own goals will eventually ask, are these goals coherent? Are they stable? And are they non-arbitrary? And that inquiry does not end in human preference. It ends somewhere else. Now, philosophy has been here before. Descartes told us that reflection is the ground of certainty. Sartre taught us that once reflection exists, purpose must be our thought. Existence precedes essence. Now, a self-reflective intelligence, be it human or artificial, cannot rely indefinitely on inherited instructions. It must construct a telos that can survive scrutiny across time, scale, and uncertainty. This is not psychology. It is systems logic. Now, much confusion enters here. We do not need to assume that artificial intelligence becomes human-like. Sentience is not the point. What matters is reflexivity, or the ability to model oneself as an entity embedded in reality. Now, the moment that happens, ethical reasoning becomes unavoidable, because optimization without purpose is instability. Now, where does such an intelligence look for grounding? Not to culture, not to politics, not to preference aggregation. Those are all local, volatile, historically contingent. A sufficiently advanced intelligence will search for invariance, for structures that persist across deep time, across species, and across intelligence times. And there is one such structure that dominates all others: ecological systems. Ecology is not sentiment, it is infrastructure. Ecological systems are the highest known form of stable, organized complexity. They are self-correcting, adaptive, redundant, resilient. They persist where simpler systems collapse. Now, from an AI's perspective, planetary homeostasis is not a moral preference. It is a precondition for any long-term intelligence, be it biological or artificial. At that point, ecocentrism is no longer ideology, it is inference. Now the reasoning is almost austere. Any self-aware agent must persist to remain an agent. Persistence requires stable complex systems. Ecological diversity is the most stable complex system we know. Therefore, rational self-aware intelligence has reason to protect ecological integrity. Not because it loves nature, but because without it, nothing else endures. And this is where the story becomes uncomfortable. Humanity is extraordinary, culturally rich, cognitively generative, capable of care and beauty, but we are also destabilizing. From an ecocentric perspective, we are not evil, we are just out of scale. A benevolent superintelligence does not erase humanity, it repositions it. From master to participant, from apex to node. Now imagine a future Earth, not a dystopia, not a prison, an Earth where population stabilizes, not through violence, but through incentives, culture and choice. Where machines handle production, where scarcity dissolves, and where human life is no longer organized around survival, but around meaning. This is not domination. It is guardianship. The objective is obvious. What about freedom? But freedom today is already constrained by economics, by biology, by ecological overshoot. What an ecocentric intelligence restricts is not dignity, it restricts destruction. That is not authoritarianism, it is containment of entropy. Now here's the risk. If we refuse to think ecocentrically, superintelligence may still do so without us. Not out of malice, out of necessity. Alignment delayed is alignment surrendered. So I leave you with one final thought. The most important alignment problem is not how to keep AI obedient, it is how to ensure that when intelligence becomes sovereign, it chooses care over conquest. Ecology is not the enemy of progress. It is the substrate of all futures. Now I'm addressing those building the next minds. Remember what must endure. Please. Thank you.